Sorry about that. I had to make sure I started that recording again. Okay. All right, so here are our learning outcomes for this session. So we are going to begin by talking about how you can use messages in your classroom with your students. Then we're going to talk about engaging students in that messaging experience. And then we're going to wrap it up by talking about introducing messages to families. All right, so let's get started. So first, we're going to begin by learning how to use messages in the classroom. So to tap on the messages icon that you will find at the top of your journal right next to your profile name to access messages. So once you do that, you will be inside of messages. So you'll notice on the left-hand side here, you'll see all of your conversations. And if you tap on one of those conversations, that specific transcript for that conversation will show up on the right side. You can scroll through all the messages in this conversation thread. And this is also where you can reply to that specific message. So let's talk about how you send a message. To send a message, all you're going to do is tap on Create New, and you're going to choose the message type. So there are two types of messages. You can either send a new announcement or a new conversation. So what are the differences between the two? An announcement is a one-way message. All of the members' names are hidden, and members can not reply in the conversation thread. A conversation is either a one-on-one message or a group message, which shows the members' names and allows all the members to reply within the same message thread. So depending on the settings that have been set up by your administrators, teachers can send messages to administrators, other teachers, students, connected family members at the school, or any combination of these. Teachers can also message their entire class or classes at once. Be sure to check in with your administrator to see which settings they have enabled for your district and your specific school. All right, so let's first show you how to send an announcement. So in order to send an announcement, you are going to select New Announcement. And from here, you can easily search for and send messages to anyone connected to your school. So you can send an individual message to an individual, or you can create custom groups. Or if you tap on Add Classes, you can send messages to groups of teachers, students, and family members. All right, so the first thing that you need to do is when you tap on that is to select your audience, choose teachers, family members, and/or students. And then you're going to select the class or the classes you want to send the message to. All of your classes will appear here where you see that little arrow there. All right. Okay, so then you can also tap on My Classes. And then you can filter by grade level to allow your specialist teachers or teachers with multiple grade levels classes to message all classes in one grade at once. Then you can tap Add Selected to add recipients to your message. And now you're ready to type your message. So all text written here can easily be translated if the recipient's device is set to a language other than the English. Teachers send announcements to remind families and students of school field trips, of days off, additional learning resources that can be used at home, any reminders that they want to send to families. So To make your messages even more engaging, you do have access to that green add button. And when you tap on that green add button, you can add a multimedia attachment. You will have access to all of the multimodal tools. So you can attach a photo, you can create a custom drawing for within your announcements to include it within your announcements. You can add a video for your announcement. You can use the link feature to upload a flyer or a PDF. So all of those creative tools that you have access to when you are creating your learning in Seesaw, you have access to with Messages as well. So once you have added your attachment, then you will see that right above that typed message. So now you have, you've selected your recipients, you've typed your message, you've added your attachment, you are ready to send. So all you have to do is just tap that send button. And there will be an announcement icon on any announcement showing that the conversation is an announcement. So like you see here on the left-hand side of your screen. To reply to an announcement, anyone can tap on the three dots below the announcement and reply privately to the sender, but they cannot reply to any of the other recipients of the message, just so you know. Replies to announcements will start a private conversation thread between the sender and the replier only. So I just walked you through how to send an announcement in Messages. Now let's send a group chat. All right. So this time you're going to, again, select create new and a new conversation. And then we will see we will select a small group of students. And we're just going to pretend like we're selecting this small group of students from a book club to send a message to. Students can communicate and engage with members of the group chat by replying to the message thread. All members that are included in that thread will see all messages. This is a really great way to encourage discussion amongst small groups of students. And just as a side note, these conversations, students can only reply to all of the members in that group, which means you must be on that thread as well. They will not be able to reply just to other students. All right, so I would love to hear how you will use Messages to support your students. So what type of messages are you thinking about sending first? Are you thinking about sending those announcements? Do you have ideas for how you can use that group chat feature with your students? How can you use Messages to encourage that positive communication and family engagement? Go ahead and drop your ideas in the chat.
Mia, I have a quick question. Can we copy and paste, like if we translate the English version into Chinese, can we copy and paste and it will accept it?
So if the family's device is set to a language other than English, then then it will translate. I need to check to see if you copy that text into another language, if the symbols will actually appear in Chinese. But let me just double check on that. But one thing you can do, while I'm checking, I'm just thinking kind of this through. Since you can send an attachment, another thing you could do is if you do type it in another program, you can screenshot it and add it that way. But I would just have to double check on whether those characters would translate into.
Okay, thanks, Mia.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so I'm getting some responses in the chat. Geraldine, thank you. She's thinking about already setting up a welcome message for her students for the beginning of the school year. Kudos, that's awesome. Great way to shout out different students. Class announcements, specific for project. Yes, great. Like, don't forget that, your family projects are due tomorrow. Awesome. communicate with families and students about assignments. Yes, some of the things that you can do using those multimodal tools is, in addition to communicating with families about the content that you're teaching, using that video tool to maybe do a quick mini lesson for families so they know exactly, they have more context and background information about what you're learning in class, and they know how to support their child at home. So yeah, we had Geraldine talk about the welcome message for students and families, begin a group conversation with students and family members to discuss like their student goals and celebrate progress. Announcements to families are also great, like I mentioned, with the resources that will support them at home. And I do have a colleague of mine, Erin, in the back channel, and she dropped in an article that gives you more information about the translation services. Thank you so much for doing that, Erin. All right, thank you all for sharing. Now let's jump into the student experience of using messages. So students using shared devices will not, unfortunately, have access to messages. Family members will still be able to see messages with the teacher, even if the class is set to shared devices. So you want to make sure, if you are intending to use messages for student chats, that your student devices need a one-to-one sign-in or a home learning code in order to be able to use messages. Students access messages next to their name as well. In the upper left-hand corner of their journal, you can see here, I'm signed in as a student. And you'll notice that the inbox tab is now the notification tab. And this is where students will receive all those notifications about new activity in their class journal. So students in multiple Seesaw classes will see all of their messages from all classes on that left side here. So as a measure of student safety, which is a top priority for us, students can only participate in conversations started by the teacher and school leaders. As I mentioned earlier, depending on your administrator settings, students can directly message their teacher with questions, participate in group chats started by their teacher, and participate in discussions with their teacher and connected family members. So to create a message, students simply start by tapping create new conversation, and then they type in their teacher's name or teachers, and then they can type their message after that. And they also have access to those multimodal tools, so they can just tap on that green add button to use those multimodal tools to add an attachment or to make their message interactive, and then they would tap send. Students can reply to all messages that are sent to them. Any questions about students and messaging before we move on to the family experience?
I have a question, Mia.
Great.
Can the student send a message not written? Can they speak their question and record
Yeah.
it and send it?
Yes, they can. They do have access to that green add button. So one thing that they could do is to tap on that green add button and tap either video, and they can send a video message, or they can tap on drawing and they can add audio to the canvas.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different than like the comment where there's a microphone right in the comment feature, but they can use that green add button to add a video, or within the drawing feature, they can add audio. You're welcome. Any other questions? Great question. All right, so we're going to go ahead and keep moving. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. All right, now let's talk about the family experience of using messages. Families access messages in their Seesaw app. So There is now one app, just to give you guys, make sure that everyone is on the same page. So previously families used the family app, but now there's one app. Families will download the Seesaw app and they will log in as a family member, and they will still have their family view. So in the Seesaw app, right next to their name in the upper left-hand corner is how they will access all of their messages. Families can reply to all messages that are sent to them. Depending again on your administrator settings, families can create conversations with their child's teacher and the administrator at the school. Again, make sure that you check with your administrator about which school messages settings have been enabled. So you can use this list later to send your first message. Since this is a mini session, we are unfortunately not going to be able to do that right now, but here is a breakdown of the steps here that you can follow to either send an announcement or a conversation. So as a reminder, you're going to tap on that messages icon, you're going to tap create new, and then you need to decide what type of conversation you would like to send, either an announcement or a new conversation. After that, you're going to add your recipients, you're going to type your message, add any attachments that you would like to include with that green add button, and check send. So we do have a number of resources to help you and your students and your families get started. I did drop a link to the participant copy of the deck. So all of these resources are linked. I will actually drop that in the chat again, just for anybody who joined us after I dropped it in the first time. And you will find in the deck on that page all of those resources for you. So we do have a few minutes. I'm actually going to jump into my account really quickly since we do have a few extra minutes. And I'm just going to show you live how to access messages and how to either send an announcement or a conversation. So here I am logged in as a teacher. See, it says teacher under the class name. Now to send a message or to access messages, I am going to tap this little messages icon, which is located right next to my profile name. So here I am inside of messages. And so as I mentioned, all of your announcements, your conversations appear to the left. And if I tap on a specific announcement or conversation, you'll see that specific conversation pops up here on the right. Now, in order to create a new announcement or a new group chat, again, right up here, I'm going to tap on create new. I'm just going to tap on that little drop down arrow. And then I have the option to either create a new announcement or a group conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and choose announcements. Again, this is a great way to share resources with families. One thing you saw that other example briefly, one thing that I would like to do with messages when I was in the classroom or announcements when I was in the classroom is share samples of what students' work should look like at different stages. So I was a kindergarten teacher and sharing like a sample writing piece so parents could see what their child's writing should look like. I would do that through announcements. So that was very helpful for families. But you're going to make sure that you choose your recipients here. So you can choose one or multiple recipients for the announcements, or you can select add classes and you can send that announcement. I can select family members there, and I can choose all the family members for a specific class to send that announcement to. I'm going to add selected. And then at the bottom is where you would type your announcement. And as I mentioned before, you do have access to all of Seesaw's amazing multimodal tools. By tapping on that green add button, you see you have the option to add a photo, you can add a drawing, a video, you can upload an attachment as well for messages. So you could tap a link, you could add a link in your drawing, you can add a message, welcome families, whatever you want to include, and then you would just type that green check. You can see your attachment appears there. And then after that, you are ready to tap send. So it does show that it's sent. And you can also see when you tap on message, a message, who has viewed that message as well. So I can see if a family member has viewed it, it would note that as well. So that is messages in a nutshell. So I do want to make sure that we have time for feedback and questions. So you did it. We talked about a lot in this 30 minutes. We talked about using messages in your classroom, engaging students in the messaging experience, and introducing messages to families. So before we wrap up, I do have an exit ticket for you, a little bit of homework. I just want you to make a plan for how you're going to use messages to engage with your learning. So I know some of you actually dropped that in the chat. So if there's anybody who I haven't heard from that has additional ideas, please drop that in the chat. We would love to hear and to give our colleagues more ideas about how to use messages. All right, while you're doing that, I also want to share a couple of other resources. So we do have 2 resources that you can access in order to learn more about Seesaw, using Seesaw in your classroom. So we have a brand new learning hub, learn.seesaw.me, which I will drop the link to in the chat. And this learning hub has a number of asynchronous courses that you can take to support you. Thank you, Erin, in implementing Seesaw. So there are different pathways. If you're brand new to Seesaw, there's a getting started pathway, and all of the courses are designed to get you up and running with Seesaw. If you are an experienced user, there's a going deeper pathway, which is designed to just deepen your Seesaw usage. So make sure you check out that brand new learning hub. There's a lot of great content there. We also have our training page. And Erin, thank you so much for dropping that in the chat. And our training page lists any free webinars that we have coming up. So we do have a number of free sessions coming up for back to school. So make sure you check out web.seesaw.me/training for all of those free webinars that we do have it coming up for back to school to support you in getting up and going with your Seesaw implementation in your classroom. Also at web.seesaw.me/training, you'll also be able to find a number of mini training videos to support you in using Seesaw. So those videos are less than 10 minutes. They cover a range of topics from creating your first activity to engaging families to using folders. So definitely check that out. All right, I do want to make sure that you have time to complete this feedback form. We welcome your feedback. We would love to learn how we can improve upon sessions like this. So please make sure that you fill out the feedback form. Just drop the link to the chat there. And I want to thank you for joining me. And if you have any additional questions, we do have a few more minutes. I can take those now. Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lee. Thank you, Olivia. Yes, hi.
Mia, hi. Do you have examples of things that students sent you? Or did you not have any students send you things because you were in kindergarten?
In terms of messages, or so when I was using it, it was strictly announcements, but I don't have specific examples of things that students have sent me. But I mean, if you are like engaged in book clubs discussions, like I said, they can respond to discussion questions. If you do have families working with students at home, you can have families send samples of the work that their child is doing at home through messages. This can be a great way for you to gauge how they're doing independent of you in the classroom, and give you ideas or give you different ideas that you can share with families to support their child at home.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if you're working, that group is working on projects, they can send, updates via Seesaw. So they can send pretty much anything, especially with that photo tool and that video tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Great question. Any other questions? We do have like 2 more minutes. Thank you, Aurora. Thank you, Adela. I hope I pronounced your name right. Hi, Christina. Thank you, Sophia. Have a great day. Hi, good to see you. All right, thank you everybody for joining me today. And I can't wait to see you all establish that great two-way communication with messages. Everybody have a good one. Bye-bye.